Our story begins with twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. These twins are central figures in Roman mythology, embodying the spirit and origins of one of the greatest civilizations in history. Legend tells us they were abandoned as babies, left to perish by the banks of the Tiber River. Their mother, Rhea Silvia, was a Vestal virgin, and their father was said to be Mars, the god of war. They were rescued by a she-wolf who nursed them to health. This she-wolf, known as Lupa, became a symbol of Rome's strength and resilience. A shepherd named Faustulus then found and raised them. He and his wife, Acca Laurentia, took the twins in and cared for them as their own. As adults, the twins decided to build a city. They envisioned a great city that would stand the test of time and become a beacon of civilization. They argued over the location and Romulus killed Remus. This tragic fratricide marked the beginning of Rome's complex and often violent history. Romulus became the first king of Rome. He established the city's initial institutions and laid the foundations for its future greatness. He named the city after himself, Romulus, thus giving birth to Rome. The city quickly grew in size and influence under his leadership. This legend, though likely not entirely true, captures the spirit of early Rome. It reflects the values of bravery, ambition, and determination that characterized the Roman people. It was a city born from conflict and ambition. These elements would continue to shape Rome's destiny for centuries to come. The traditional founding date for Rome is 753 BC. This date marks the beginning of the Roman calendar and the start of a new era. This marks the start of the Roman calendar. The Romans would go on to develop a sophisticated system of timekeeping and record-keeping. Rome's early years are shrouded in myth and legend. These stories, passed down through generations, help to forge a collective identity and cultural heritage. Archaeological evidence does tell us that a small farming village existed in this region. This village, situated on the Palatine Hill, was the humble beginning of what would become a vast empire. This village eventually grew into the city of Rome. Over time, it expanded to encompass the surrounding hills and valleys, becoming a bustling urban center. Rome's location on the Tiber River was strategically important. The river provided a source of water, a means of transportation, and a natural defense against invaders. It provided access to trade and transportation. The Tiber River connected Rome to the Mediterranean Sea, facilitating commerce and cultural exchange. Rome's early inhabitants were a mix of Latins, Sabines, and Etruscans. These diverse groups brought their own customs, traditions, and innovations to the burgeoning city. These different groups eventually merged to form a distinct Roman identity. This blending of cultures created a rich and dynamic society. They shared a common language, religion, and culture. Latin became the lingua franca, and the Roman pantheon of gods and goddesses reflected the city's diverse heritage. The Romans were a practical and resilient people. They valued hard work, discipline, and ingenuity. They were skilled farmers, soldiers, and builders. Their agricultural practices, military strategies, and architectural achievements were unparalleled. These qualities would serve them well as they began to expand their power and influence. Rome's military prowess and strategic acumen enabled it to conquer and assimilate vast territories, laying the groundwork for an empire that would endure for centuries. Rome was initially ruled by kings. The first kings were likely local chieftains. They gradually consolidated their power and expanded Roman territory. Tradition tells us there were 7 kings of Rome. These early rulers established many of Rome's key institutions. This included the Senate, an advisory council of elders. They also created the citizen assemblies. These gave the people some say in government. Around the 6th century BC, the Etruscans rose to prominence in Italy. They were a powerful and wealthy people from north of Rome. The Etruscans conquered Rome and ruled for about a century. They brought with them advanced knowledge of engineering, architecture, and the arts. The Etruscans left a lasting mark on Roman culture. The last Etruscan king, Tarquin the Proud, was a tyrant. He was overthrown in a popular uprising in 509 BC. This marked the end of the Roman monarchy. The Romans were determined never to be ruled by a king again. They established a new form of government, the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic was not a democracy in the modern sense. Unlike today's democracies where every citizen has a vote and a voice, the Roman Republic was structured quite differently. It was more of an oligarchy, a system where power was concentrated in the hands of a few. This means power was shared among a small group of elite families, known as patricians. These families held significant influence and control over the political landscape. The Roman Republic had a complex system of government, designed with multiple layers and checks to balance power. It was designed to prevent any one person or group from gaining too much power, ensuring that no single entity could dominate the political scene. The two most powerful bodies in the Roman Republic were the Senate and the Assemblies. These institutions played crucial roles in governance. The Senate was composed of elder statesmen, often from the most prestigious families. These senators were experienced and held considerable sway in political matters. They advised the elected officials and controlled finances, making decisions that impacted the entire republic. The assemblies were made up of all adult male citizens. These gatherings were where the common people could exercise their limited political rights. They elected officials and voted on laws, giving them a voice in the legislative process, albeit a restricted one. Only wealthy landowners could hold high office. This created a significant divide between the elite and the common people. This meant that the common people, or plebeians, had limited political power. Their influence was often overshadowed by the wealth and status of the patricians. Despite its limitations, the Roman Republic was a remarkably successful form of government. It managed to create a stable and enduring political system. It lasted for almost 500 years, a testament to its resilience and adaptability in the face of various challenges. During this time, Rome became the dominant power in the Mediterranean world. Its influence spread far and wide, shaping the course of history. The Romans were incredibly successful in warfare. Their military prowess was unmatched, allowing them to conquer vast territories. They conquered vast territories and amassed great wealth. This expansion brought immense resources and riches to Rome. Roman law and administration were also highly effective. The legal system was sophisticated and helped maintain order. This helped to maintain order and stability within the expanding empire. The administrative efficiency of Rome was a key factor in its success. However, the Roman Republic was also plagued by internal divisions and social unrest. The gap between the rich and the poor often led to conflicts. These problems would eventually lead to its downfall. The internal strife and power struggles weakened the Republic, paving the way for the rise of the Roman Empire. By the 1st century BC, the Roman Republic was in crisis. The once mighty and stable republic was now teetering on the edge of collapse, plagued by internal strife and external pressures. Years of war and expansion had created vast wealth and inequality. The spoils of war enriched the elite, while the common people saw little benefit. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, creating a society ripe for conflict. This led to social unrest and political instability. The common citizens, or plebeians, grew increasingly discontented with their lack of representation and the concentration of power in the hands of a few. Powerful generals emerged. They commanded their own armies and challenged the authority of the Senate. These generals, with their loyal legions, became power brokers in their own right, often acting independently of the Senate's wishes. One such general was Gaius Julius Caesar. Born into a patrician family, Caesar was ambitious and determined to leave his mark on history. He was a brilliant military strategist and a shrewd politician. His ability to inspire loyalty in his troops and navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics set him apart from his contemporaries. Caesar rose to prominence through his successful campaigns in Gaul, which is modern-day France. His conquests not only expanded Rome's territories but also brought immense wealth and resources to the Republic. He conquered the entire region for Rome. His victories in Gaul were celebrated back home, and he was hailed as a hero by the Roman populace. Caesar's growing power and popularity alarmed the Roman elite. The senators, who were accustomed to wielding power, saw in Caesar a potential tyrant who could overthrow the Republic. They feared he was becoming too ambitious. His actions and reforms threatened their privileged positions and the traditional power structures of Rome. In 49 BC, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his army. This bold move was a declaration of war against the Senate and the Republic itself. This was an act of war against Rome. A civil war followed. Caesar emerged victorious. His tactical genius and the loyalty of his troops ensured his success on the battlefield. He defeated his enemies, including the famous general Pompey the Great. Pompey, once an ally and later a rival, was no match for Caesar's military prowess. Caesar became the undisputed ruler of Rome. With his enemies vanquished, he held supreme power, a position no Roman had held since the days of the kings. He implemented a series of reforms aimed at addressing Rome's problems. These reforms were designed to stabilize the Republic and address the grievances of the common people. He granted citizenship to conquered peoples, integrating them into the Roman state and ensuring their loyalty, redistributed land to the poor, and reformed the calendar. His land reforms aimed to address the economic disparities, while the calendar reforms standardized timekeeping across the Republic. Caesar's reforms made him popular with the masses. The common people saw him as a champion of their rights and a leader who could bring about positive change. However, they also alienated the Roman elite. The senators and the wealthy patricians viewed his reforms as a direct threat to their power and influence. They saw him as a threat to their power. The fear of losing their privileged positions drove them to conspire against him. In 44 BC, a group of senators assassinated Caesar on the floor of the Senate. This brutal act was intended to save the Republic from what they perceived as Caesar's tyranny. They hoped to restore the Republic. The conspirators believed that by eliminating Caesar, they could return Rome to its former glory and republican ideals. Instead, Caesar's assassination plunged Rome into another round of civil wars. The power vacuum left by his death led to further chaos and conflict, ultimately paving the way for the rise of the Roman Empire.